A creative piece from our friends in the north comes an interesting little spark. Is the child of light what she was destined to be, or do we get left in the dark? Church here, and welcome to the Game Grinder. Today we'll be reviewing Child of Light. Child of Light was developed by Ubisoft Montreal, the Canadian branch of French developer Ubisoft, and is most well known for Assassin's Creed, Watch Dogs, Far Cry, and the later Prince of Persia series. It was released for all platforms in April of 2014, and I played the game on PC. Child of Light is a platforming role-playing game. Exploration of the world involves the left to right and up and down style of a side-scrolling platformer. Our hero starts out being landbound, but soon gains the ability of flight. Despite the ability to land and walk anywhere in the game, I found I pretty much always chose to fly. Scattered throughout the areas along the way, there are an assortment of treasure chests, stat boosters, unlockable gems to be opened, and confession notes that provide additional lore to be found. The game uses many basic puzzles such as levers for doors, weighted boxes for floor switches, or statues that require the Firefly companion to cast light to create shadows for runes. The Firefly can also interact with wishes flowers in the explorable environments to restore his light bar, or if collected in a certain order, will release balls of light to restore health and mana for characters between battles. Additionally, he can shine light on enemies that will cause them to cower, which we can then choose to pass by them, or take a more advantageous position before initiating battle. Being an RPG, enemies are scattered throughout the environment, and combat is initiated by coming into contact with said baddies. Battles are turn-based, much like the Japanese RPGs that inspired it. We may control 2 party members at a time, and usually fight against 2 or 3 enemies. If enemies are attacked from behind, we are given an early start in battle, or if enemies initiate the battle from behind our controlled characters, then they are given an early start in battle. Similar to the JRPGs that inspired it, Child of Light uses an active battle system, which means all characters and enemies have a spot on a progress bar, and once it reaches the end, they may perform an action. The last chunk of the action bar is the final casting phase, and if a character or enemy is attacked while in this phase, they can be interrupted and sent back on the progress bar. Depending on the amount of the light bar the Firefly companion Igniclius has remaining, he may be used during battle to blind enemies, which slows how quickly they progress on the bar, but drains his light bar. He may also brush over the wishes flowers, again that will release balls of light, with blue restoring Igniclius's light, green restoring some health to allies, and purple restoring mana to allies. Once more characters have joined the adventure, we're able to immediately swap between them during battle once one of the active characters reaches their casting phase. This is incredibly useful throughout the game as enemies of various strengths and weaknesses will be encountered, which will require certain characters' abilities to dish out extra damage or buffs required to win battles. As we progress through the game, enemies become more challenging and may require certain spells or debuffs to gain the upper hand. As most RPGs go, winning battles will reward characters with experience points, which will add up to gain additional levels. In Child of Light, leveling seems to happen nearly every other battle, which is helpful as little to no grinding is required as long as you fight enemies as they are encountered instead of just passing by them. With levels comes the gain of skill points, which may be used on a character's skill tree to unlock bonus points to stats like health, damage, or unlock new skills to be used in combat. The last gameplay mechanic to give mention to are the Acoli gems in the crafting system. Acoli can be found in the assortment of treasure chests encountered while exploring, or as rewards after battle. Acoli are gems that may be equipped on a character's gear that gives boosts to attack, defense, or additional attributes. As Acoli are collected, smaller gems may be combined to make larger versions, which in turn increase bonuses even more. These give an extra opportunity to further customize characters, allowing adaptation to elemental enemies, or just overall stat boosting. There are a host of achievements to earn along the way, and there are also a few bits of DLC available, but none that really add anything to the story, besides the Golem's Plight DLC. Before moving on to the story, I will mention that I do talk about some pretty large spoilers ahead, so if you'd like to skip past any possible spoilers, go ahead and click on the annotation to skip ahead.
Child, tuck yourself in bed and let me tell a story of Lemuria, a long-lost kingdom, and a girl born for glory.
When the game is started, we are provided with an introductory scene that sets up the story, which begins in Austria in 1895. We learn of a duke and his wife who had a daughter named Aurora. The wife passes, and the duke remarries out of loneliness. On a Friday night before Easter, Aurora goes to sleep, and her skin becomes cold and does not wake. The Duke assumes she has died and becomes bedridden with grief. We take on the role of Aurora when she wakes on an altar in the land of Lemuria. Afraid and alone, Aurora begins to head east, where she is soon greeted by the firefly Igniclius, who informs her that she must meet the Lady of the Forest. Upon meeting the Lady of the Forest, Aurora learns she isn't dreaming, and the land of Lemuria was once ruled by the Queen of Light, but she has disappeared. In her place, the Black Queen Umbra has taken control and stolen Lemuria's light, the sun, the stars, and the moon. The connection between Lemuria and Aurora's world is a mirror, and is now controlled by the Black Queen, and in order to return, Aurora must find the light once again, and defeat the Black Queen. We also learn the firefly, Igniclius, was created by the Lady of the Forest. She gives Aurora the stars, which grants her wings to fly, and a flute to make use of on the journey. Along the way, Aurora and Igniclius encounter a variety of Lemurians, all with their own connections to the plight facing the land, and who will join in on the quest. We first meet Rubella the Jester, an Arostati who wants to find her brother. Finn is a timid dwarf-like mage from the Capilli village who joins after ending the crow curse affecting the village. Nora is Aurora's sister, who ended up in Lemuria by getting forced through the mirror. Golem is encountered if the DLC The Golem's Plight is acquired, and will join you after you reassemble him, after he is broken apart by the Black Queen. Robert is a Bulmus, a mouse-like inhabitant from Populi, who would like nothing more than to win the heart of his one love, Margaret. Tristus, Rubella's brother, is also a jester, and was kicked out of the circus, and will join with Rubella's persuasion. Genovifa, who goes by Jen, is also a mage, and joins after saving her and another mage's village from an ogre who has slain the rest of their people. Ungus is a member of the Katagida clan who's been captured by the Black Queen, and has been forced into becoming a guard, helps Aurora escape from her own capture. The story is simple, and usually involves arriving at a new area, then performing a task to progress the plot from ridding a village of crows, to saving a rock giant from the spiders that have taken residence from within. Despite being rather simple, there are a few interesting twists and turns through the journey, and it's enough to keep the overall story interesting, and kept me wondering what will happen next. We find out that Aurora's sisters actually work for the Black Queen, and Aurora's stepmother was actually the Black Queen in disguise. Another neat event during the story is upon defeating Aurora's evil sister Cordelia and regaining the moon, Aurora is magically transformed into a young woman, and unlocks more powerful skills in the process. I felt the game had a very nostalgic, serene atmosphere, enhanced by the art style and the soft, light classical composition of music that accompanied the time spent in the land of Lemuria. I think in many ways, Child of Light is a special creation in its own way. Overall, it's considered to be a love letter to JRPGs, and takes many concepts and makes them its own. As you can tell, the artwork of Child of Light is pretty unique, and the game's watercolor art style was actually largely inspired by Yoshitaka Amano, who's most well known for his beautiful Final Fantasy artwork from the early days of the series, and he's also the creator of iconic anime characters Gatchaman, Kassan, and one of my personal favorite characters from anime, Vampire Hunter D. One of the biggest unique factors of the game, and by no ways was meant to be one of my last points to hit on, is how the dialogue is presented. All conversations are spoken in rhyme, in an A, B, C, B style. Most of the time this plays out pretty well, but sometimes the wording or rhyming seems a bit off. But since they tackle the entire game in this style, I think the few flubs are definitely forgivable. A humorous note about the rhyming is with the character of Rubella, who is never able to complete a rhyme properly, and is typically corrected by Igniclius. I learned there was a physical release of Child of Light in Europe, so I imported the deluxe editions, which allowed me to have a physical copy of some sort to add to my collection, and I really appreciate the fact that Ubisoft Montreal did this. I kind of feel like PC gamers tend to get the shaft these days, especially now with the prevalence of indie developers. More and more games are becoming digital download only. The deluxe edition comes with an art book, a light-up keyring of Igniclius, and a poster designed by Yoshitaka Amano. There's also a couple bits of downloadable content included. I mentioned before that I felt Child of Light was a special creation, and besides what I had already mentioned is the fact that a major developer took on a project like this. The more experimental games tend to be avoided by the big studios as there's a lot more risk involved, but they went ahead with it anyways, and to that I say bravo. I think Child of Light has succeeded in what it had hoped to accomplish, being a unique RPG inspired by the genre that paved the way for its own place, all the while separating itself from the rest through its minor alterations to combat, exploration, art style, and dialogue, all while making the stylistic choices its own. Though I don't think it's particularly exceptional in many aspects, besides the art style and atmosphere, I really do appreciate the creativity, and I enjoyed the 10 hours I put into it. Short and sweet. I think much more playtime would have probably detracted from the experience. The game is featured on Uplay, an online PC gaming service that hosts Ubisoft games, which doesn't necessarily detract from the game, but it's something I'd rather have on Steam instead. On a scale of 1 to 5, 1 being hated it, 5 being loved it, I'm going with a 3.5 on Child of Light. Thanks for checking out my review of Child of Light. What were your thoughts on the game? Let me know in the comments below. If you liked what you've seen or heard, please give the video a like, a share, and subscribe to see future videos. I'm on Twitter and Facebook as well. Until next time on the Game Grinder.